Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that sounds, well, incredibly basic, but it actually carries the potential to completely rewire how you approach your daily life. We're exploring the profoundly impactful philosophy of Admiral William H. McRaven, famously captured in his book, Make Your Bed. Let's look at how taking just a couple of minutes each morning can serve as the ultimate catalyst for monumental shifts in your personal and professional world. We are taking a journey from micro habits to macro impact.
So let me ask you a question right out of the gate. Could 10 small adjustments alter the course of your life? And beyond that, could they actually alter the course of the world? Do you ever wake up feeling just stuck in a rut, searching for that elusive routine that's finally going to get your life moving in the right direction? We've all been there, right? We look for these massive, sweeping changes to fix everything all at once. But what we're going to uncover today is the fascinating promise that it isn't the giant leaps that save us. It's the tiny tweaks. It's the small, manageable adjustments that create massive ripple effects over time.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Struggling with new habits.
A lot of us operate like a wild card, living this unpredictable, kind of chaotic existence where we're frantically searching for stability. And honestly, that's a really frustrating reality. We crave a predictable, structured existence, but our actual days, they feel like a mess of endless experimentation and rapid burnouts. We desperately want that reliable structure, but building solid, lasting behaviors feels nearly impossible. We look around for giant leaps to fix everything, but the real answer lies in something much, much simpler.
Moving on to Section 2. One deceptively simple task.
Before we get to the task itself, we have to look at the source of this advice. The man behind this philosophy is Admiral William H. McRaven. He's a retired U.S. Navy four-star admiral and the former chancellor of the University of Texas system. We're talking about someone whose entire career was defined by absolute peak performance, intense discipline, and high-stakes leadership. This isn't just a self-help guru tossing out morning routine ideas. This is a highly decorated military leader who has navigated some of the absolute most stressful environments on the planet. When someone with this level of credibility offers advice on how to overcome obstacles, we need to lean in and listen closely.
And that advice boils down to exactly 10 fundamental principles. During a 2014 commencement speech to the graduating class at UT Austin, McRaven didn't just give vague platitudes. He shared these precise 10 life lessons. These are the lessons he learned during his rigorous Navy SEAL training, lessons that helped him overcome severe obstacles not just in his naval career, but throughout his entire life. The speech went incredibly viral and eventually became the foundation for his book.
So, what's the gateway to these 10 profound lessons? Step 1, wake up. Step 2, make your bed. Step 3, get your day off to a good start. I know, it seems almost absurdly simple, doesn't it? And maybe even a little annoying when you're half asleep and just want to hit the snooze button for the third time. Smoothing out a bedsheet seems like such a minor, insignificant job, but the underlying psychology here is absolutely brilliant. By completing this one straightforward task immediately upon waking, you're instantly securing a victory. You get your day off to a good start by proving to yourself right out of the gate that you can complete a task effectively. This small job yields unexpectedly big benefits because it sets a tone of accomplishment that carries you through the rest of your day.
Which brings us to Section 3, Navy SEAL Life Lessons.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast it provides. When you dive into McRaven's work, you aren't just reading a polite little guide on household chores. You're mentally dropped into the visceral reality of Navy SEAL training. Just picture it. You're exhausted, freezing cold, and completely covered in sand. You experience his grueling challenges and eye-opening encounters. It's in this exact, brutal context that these survival tactics were forged. Suddenly, the act of making a bed every morning doesn't seem so difficult compared to freezing in the roaring surf, right?
And that leads to a profound realization. Who you are, not just your habits, is what changes your life. It's so easy to think a list of life lessons might just be another basic habit tracker, but when viewed through the extreme lens of military challenges, this straightforward counsel morphs from a simple checklist into a motivating manual for your character. It shifts the entire focus. It's no longer just about the physical habit of making the bed, it's about becoming the type of person who has the discipline to execute that task every single day, no matter what. It changes your fundamental character.
And finally, Section 4, changing your world.
The core conceptual formula here requires a really critical balance. True success in life and the ability to overcome the massive obstacles thrown your way is never just one isolated thing. It's a powerful, necessary mix of individual willpower and shared support.
You absolutely need the personal grit and individual willpower to wake up and make that bed, to push through the cold and the sand. But you also must learn to lean on others and embrace shared support. By mastering this balance, you inspire yourself to work towards your objectives while simultaneously improving the lives of everyone around you.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate message, captured perfectly by the UT Austin motto, "What starts here changes the world." Admiral McRaven drew deep inspiration from this motto, explaining how anyone, absolutely anyone, can take these fundamental, basic lessons to better themselves and, by extension, better the world around them. It connects that solitary micro-action of smoothing out your blanket in the morning to the grand macro goal of impacting humanity. Because let's face it, if you can't do the little things right, you will literally never do the big things right.
So let's kick things off with a pretty bizarre concept. It's called the sugar cookie. Now I know it sounds like a sweet treat, right? But it's actually this agonizing, punishing routine where a SEAL cadet is ordered to dive, fully clothed, straight into the freezing Pacific Ocean. And then they have to roll around on the beach until they're completely covered in sand from head to toe. It is deeply uncomfortable. It grabs your attention immediately. And as we'll see, it holds a really profound secret about dealing with life's daily frustrations. To master these concepts, we've broken this explainer down into 5 key parts: the power of small wins, never letting fear stop you, why you cannot paddle alone, accepting that life is not fair, and finally, how failure actually makes you stronger. All right, let's start with lesson 1, the power of small wins. The crazy thing about this first lesson is that it doesn't begin on some terrifying battlefield. It literally starts in the comfort of a cadet's bedroom. Get this, for a SEAL cadet, simply failing to make their bed perfectly the exact moment they woke up, that resulted in the freezing, sandy sugar cookie penalty we just talked about. It's a massive consequence for what seems like a totally insignificant chore. But here's the thing. It brilliantly illustrates a core psychological truth. Completing just one small, controlled microtask, like making your bed, gives you this immediate sense of accomplishment. It actually wires your brain to go tackle the larger, way more complex macro projects waiting for you out in the world. Plus, think about it. If you end up having an absolutely awful day, returning to a perfectly made bed gives you this tangible glimmer of hope that tomorrow can and will be better. And, this wasn't just some gimmick for the barracks. Years later, after a really serious injury left McRaven stuck lying in a hospital bed for months, do you know what the very first thing he did was? The moment he could finally stand unaided, he reached down and adjusted that bed. He did it to prove to himself, in real time, that he was getting better. He was making forward progress. Moving right along to lesson 2, never let fear stop you. Okay, just imagine this scenario for a second. You and your squad are ordered to swim a grueling 4-mile stretch in the pitch-black Pacific Ocean. But right before you jump in, you hear active, confirmed reports of great white sharks swimming near the shore. I mean, that is enough to completely paralyze almost anyone. Yet, McRaven and his squad, they swam into that black water anyway. Why? Because it was literally the only way to finish the training. Taking terrifying leaps of faith, even when you are absolutely terrified, is mandatory. You simply cannot achieve your full potential if you're letting fear dictate your boundaries. And the psychological pressure was just constant. It's perfectly symbolized by this bell they had, hung right in the middle of the training compound. It was the ultimate temptation. Cadets literally only had to walk up and ring it to quit right then and there, escaping all the cold, the exhaustion, and the fear. But the lesson here is simple. If you want to make an actual impact in this world, you can never, ever ring that bell. Which brings us to lesson 3. You cannot paddle alone. What's really fascinating here is how this completely shatters that whole Hollywood myth of the lone, unbreakable hero. During Hell Week, which is this brutal 7-day test of extreme endurance, cadets were forced to spend an entire night sitting in the freezing dirt. The temptation to just give up was at an all-time high. But then, one guy just started singing, and one by one, the others joined in. The dawn got closer, the dirt suddenly felt a little warmer, and that collective morale is exactly what saved them from quitting. Through this experience, McRaven realized a profound truth. Life is exactly like a small rubber boat. You simply cannot paddle it alone. Your success depends on others, and you absolutely need a dedicated team of good people to help you navigate the rough waters and get you to where you want to go. Now let's tackle lesson 4. Life is not fair. Let's circle back to that sugar cookie penalty for a minute. Sometimes the instructors would order this deeply painful punishment for absolutely no reason at all. Seriously, they would intentionally punish cadets who were striving for pure excellence, and they wouldn't give any explanation. Why? Well, just to prove that fate doesn't always reward hard work. Sometimes the universe is just totally arbitrary. And that brings us to the remarkable story of Moki Martin. He was an active SEAL teacher who absolutely loved long bike rides. But one day, a tragic accident happened. He struck another biker by mistake and was paralyzed from the waist down. I mean, life was profoundly unfair to him. But instead of blaming fate or complaining about this drastically altered reality, he flat out refused to let his disability hold him back. He just kept driving forward to enjoy a rich, full life. So the crucial takeaway for your own life is this. Stop blaming outside forces when things are unfair. Stop believing fate is against you. When life unfairly punishes you, just get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. And finally, our last section, Lesson 5, Failure Makes You Stronger. In SEAL training, falling behind had a devastating consequence, and it was known as the circus. It was this legendary, exhausting punishment that consisted of 2 hours of extra, grueling workouts, all while dealing with constant teasing and harassment from former combatants. It was literally designed to break you, and it caused a lot of cadets to drop out entirely. But here's the crazy thing. There's a fascinating loop to this punishment. McRaven and his swim partner frequently finished last, which meant they constantly got thrown into the circus. Step 1, fail. Step 2, endure the punishment. But step 3 is the secret here. They actually grew significantly stronger from all that extra, forced physical work. So much so that by step 4, they were strong enough to actually win their final graduation exam. The punishment literally became their ultimate advantage. And you know, this principle translates perfectly to the professional world too. Back in July of 1983, William McRaven faced a massive public failure. He was dismissed from his squadron and left with a completely ruined image. By all accounts, his military career really should have been over. But he didn't let that dismissal destroy him. When he was eventually granted a second chance to lead a platoon, he used that massive prior failure as the ultimate catalyst. He put in the extra effort to win back the respect of his men, and he used that drive to eventually advance all the way to the very top of the SEAL ranks. As McRaven elegantly puts it, life is full of circuses. Failures are absolutely guaranteed in your life. But if you keep training yourself through the pain, those exact failures are what make you capable of handling tough choices in the future. They are the forge that makes you stronger.
Okay, let's dive into this. Everything really starts with a massive shift in mindset. If you want to change the world, now that's a huge statement, right? But the beauty of the lessons we're unpacking today is that they don't actually start with massive world-altering actions. They start with you, the individual. It all begins with pushing your own personal boundaries, facing what terrifies you the most, and just absolutely refusing to let circumstances dictate your outcome.
Principle number 1, dare to take risks.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames a choice. To really get this, picture one of the absolute most demanding obstacles in SEAL training. It's this steep rope slide, notoriously called the slide for life. When you're standing up there looking down, your instincts are literally screaming at you to play it safe, right? You basically have two choices. The safe way, where you glide slowly, carefully beneath the rope. Or you can take the McRaven way. William McRaven looked at that rope, and instead of playing it safe, he took a calculated chance. He dove onto the top of the rope headfirst, dangerously fast. He chose to attack the obstacle rather than just survive it, and he actually finished with a career best time.
But, why does a rope course even matter? Well, because training dictates reality. Fast forward to the year 2004, McRaven is obviously no longer on a training course. He's a commander giving the go-ahead for a wildly dangerous, incredibly high-stakes daytime hostage rescue operation. And a daytime raid? That is exceptionally risky. But because he had deeply ingrained this philosophy of daring greatly, he approved it. And guess what? That Special Forces squad successfully freed those hostages. The physical risk-taking and training directly translated to a real-world, life-saving application.
And here's exactly how this applies directly to you. Look, your life is gonna be challenging. We all run into difficulties. And yeah, if you take chances, you might lose sometimes. That's just reality. But to finish your job, whatever that job happens to be, you've got to have confidence in your skills, and you absolutely must face your fears. You simply won't ever reach your maximum potential unless you take great risks and forcefully push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Moving on from physical to psychological courage, we come to lesson 2, stand up to bullies.
Okay, just imagine being ordered to complete a 4-mile ocean swim at night, in waters heavily populated by sharks. Terrifying, right? What on earth do they tell trainees to do if a shark actually approaches? Well, they actually have a protocol for this. Step 1, stand upright in the water. Step 2, defend yourself from the attack. Step 3, do not back down. McRaven recalls having to actively gather the courage to literally fight off a shark if necessary, purely because he wanted so badly to become a SEAL. It's an incredibly intense, action-oriented mindset. You do not shrink away. You stand your ground.
Now, this shark defense tactic isn't just for the ocean. It works perfectly on land against, well, human sharks. The source material recounts a really powerful moment when McRaven was dealing with Saddam Hussein. Hussein was a U.S. prisoner at the time, yet he was still actively using intimidation, trying to instill terror in the people around him. When Iraqi leaders came to visit, Hussein tried to completely dominate the room. McRaven recognized this immediately. He realized he needed to confront Hussein directly, to stand upright and defend his ground, clearly establishing that Hussein was no longer in charge. He treated the situation exactly like a shark encounter.
So, the crucial point is that without bravery, bullies will just assume control and exploit the victims. They totally rely on you backing down. To combat this in your own life, whether we're talking about a toxic workplace, a really difficult personal relationship, or just any intimidating obstacle, you must have a distinct vision or objective. Knowing exactly what you want to achieve, that's what gives you the strength to lead, to push past the challenges, and to bravely confront anyone who tries to stand in your way.
Lesson 3 takes us a bit deeper. Shine in dark moments.
Think about this. What happens when the challenge isn't a person you can just fight? What happens when the challenge is the environment itself? We're kind of entering the abyss here. Toward the conclusion of their training, SEAL students are required to swim entirely underwater to a ship, set a practice mine, and sneak all the way back to the beach. Just try to picture the sheer, suffocating tension of this. It is a pitch-dark, completely silent sea. The risk of harm or even death rises considerably in these specific conditions. In fact, McRaven noted that even the instructors themselves were incredibly anxious during this exercise. To survive and actually carry out the mission, the SEALs are taught to maintain absolute composure and calm when the pressure is at its absolute peak.
And yet, as terrifying as that dark ocean is, the source text reminds us of a much heavier truth. McRaven writes, "There is no darker moment in life than losing someone you love." The darkness of the sea really pales in comparison to human grief. But it's here, right in the midst of tragedy, that he witnessed something genuinely incredible. He saw families, military groups, and entire cities come together. In the very darkest moments, they somehow found a way to be their absolute best.
This is a heavy truth, but it applies directly to every single one of us. You are going to experience loss. You're going to face gloomy, tragic times. But you have to dig deep within yourself. You got to bring out your best personality when things are at their absolute worst. You must find a way to overcome your worries, your skepticism, and that bone-deep exhaustion. You just have to finish the task no matter how dark it gets. This unique ability to shine in the dark, that is what will truly set you apart.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Lesson 4, be a beacon of hope.
Once you learn to survive the darkness, you can actually start bringing the light. You can become a beacon of hope for others. But to truly appreciate the power of that hope, we really need to understand the absolute baseline of suffering known as Hell Week. This is universally known as the hardest week of SEAL training. We are talking about 6 continuous, completely grueling days, no sleep, strenuous body-breaking exercise, and just relentless, non-stop harassment from the instructors. The physical and mental exhaustion is, honestly, almost unimaginable.
Now imagine it's Wednesday of Hell Week. You are already entirely broken down. The trainees are ordered into the icy mud flats. They're literally buried up to their necks in freezing mud, spending the entire day there, all while instructors are constantly urging them to just quit, get out, and get warm. But then, something totally miraculous happened during McRaven's Hell Week. One voice started, then another. The class actually started singing together. While freezing in the mud, they chose unity. They chose to encourage one another and offer each other hope, completely overpowering the instructor's attempts to break their spirit.
That singing in the mud connects directly to a larger, really profound truth. The text shares a story of General John Kelly, who, following a terrifying helicopter firefight, took the time to console and give hope to the grieving families of fallen soldiers. Hope just has this immense, almost unbelievable power. It has the power to alleviate suffering, to uplift the people around you, and to motivate both individuals and entire nations to absolute greatness.
Never forget, you have the power to inspire hope that tomorrow will be better.
And finally, we arrive at lesson 5. Never, ever quit.
This right here is the crescendo of everything we've talked about today. In the center of the SEAL training area, there hangs a brass bell. It's always there, just a constant, lingering temptation. If a trainee can no longer put up with the discomfort, the abuse, or the sheer agony of the exercise, all they have to do is walk up and ring that bell, and the ordeal is immediately over. It's the universal signal of resignation. But William McRaven, through all the pain, the bitter cold, the sharks, and the mud, he never once sounded that bell.
And the real-world proof of this mindset is just staggering. The text describes a soldier who survived a horrific bomb explosion. He was severely injured, facing a brutal, agonizing road to recovery. But you know what? He never complained. He flat out refused to let grief, sympathy, or prejudice overcome him. He persisted, and he ultimately recovered. He never gave up on himself, and he never, ever gave up on his goals.
Let's synthesize all of this into your daily directives. Think of it as a checklist. Begin every single day with a job finished, no matter how small it is. Actively look for someone to support in life. Be the one who supports the weak. Appreciate the people around you. Accept the hard truth that failure happens and life simply isn't fair. But above all else, literally above everything, never, ever give up.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate choice we all have to make. Life is going to be incredibly challenging, for sure. You're going to find yourself up to your neck in the freezing mud. You're going to be surrounded by sharks in the dark. The bell is always going to be there, offering you an easy way out. The question is, are you going to ring it?